Zahavi Ili, and I am the General and Artistic Director of Opera in Williamsburg, which has been around since 2012. This year is the first year, actually, correction, 2020 is the first year since 2012 that we have not been able to come in person and present two operas. We did create an opera video, an original opera video that I hope that you will watch. Uh, and we are very grateful to the library for giving us the opportunity to present, to get in touch with you all online through Zoom. And our speaker today is Maestro Jorge Parodi, who is the music director of Opera in Williamsburg. He has been conducting our opera since 2012. He's a terrific guy, a terrific musician, and he's also the head of Opera Hispanica, and we thought it would be really nice for him to share information, to tell us in Williamsburg about Opera Hispanica. Maestro, anything else that I should say and I didn't?
No, that's great. Welcome everyone, and I'm very happy to be back at the Williamsburg Regional Library to be doing one of our behind the stage, behind the curtain talks. I mean, this is very different from other ones we do, but we thought that it was the perfect platform for us to talk about both our companies, and of course I am the connecting point between the two of them, since I'm the music director of Opera in Williamsburg, but also I'm the general and artistic director of Opera Hispanica, and I took over that position this year in August of this year, the beginning of actually last August. So this season, let's say, but at the beginning of the fall, and I was involved with Opera Hispanica since 2013 when I came in as the artistic director, but then the company it has a hiatus of inactivity, and we decided to bring it back this year since the conditions were just right for a new energy of our company. So I'm going to talk a little about the company and the mission, but mostly about the repertoire that we are aiming for, and the mission overall that the company is trying to achieve, and so which is related certainly to the repertoire and the performers. First of all, I want to have a little introduction, and I think the visual element is very useful. So we're going to have a little introduction into the. Let me find it first. Of our website, so you will see visually what Opera Hispanica looks like. So this is our website, and I invite all of you to visit our home, which is this operahispanica.com. In here you will see our mission statement and a bit of what we are looking to do this year's, and this is it's based on some of the things that we have done, and you will have here our mission, our commitment, and I think something that I find really fun is the kind of productions that we are aiming to do in the future, like Maria de Buenos Aires again, and Bob Brujo that we're planning by the Falla, we are planning for next year, and operas by the great Mexican composer Daniel Catan, Argentinian composer Osvaldo Golichov, Rodriguez, and a bit of the traditional engranados with Goyescas, and this is our core repertoire. So before that, I would like to give you a very short introduction of what Opera Hispanica is, and for that, I'm going to share again a little document. And this is our theme, and certainly we call it the Celebrate Our Voice because obviously we're playing on the element that our goal is to focus on the vocal repertoire that has connections with the Hispanic roots, and that is a very easy to get, hard to define group. It's always in debate what's included as a Hispanic especially from the U.S. perspective. But in a nutshell, and is not totally um, eliminating or leaving things out and or including everything in universe. So it's always changing, but essentially is everything related to a culture that has a strong roots with the Iberian Peninsula, mostly Spain, but also Portugal, and really mostly everything related to the Castilian language. It was put away, so it was called Spanish, but certainly Catalan and Galician and Portuguese or Valencian. Those are all different languages in the Iberian Peninsula, and of course, because of that, all the Hispanic or Spanish-speaking countries, and in a way, because of the strong influence of the strong presence of the Portuguese culture in South America with Brazil, and the strong relationship between Brazil and the other countries in South America. It's hard to define if you are doing only what is currently Spain, or are we including Portuguese also. But we are not leaving anything out that we feel that they should be included. This was the way I think we leave it to our artists and our people to decide if you are Hispanic or not, if you are Latin or not. And because it is a culture of belonging, is not a race or really a social group. It's really up to the person to decide if you feel you're Latin and Hispanic. As you know, the big difference between Latin and Hispanic is the Hispanic focus on the Spanish language or the languages from Spain, which is not only one. Again, Catalan, Galician, Valencian, they are all very strong languages. I cannot understand Valencian and I cannot understand Galician. So those, I mean, I can guess pretty strongly, but it's as different as Portuguese. So the difference between Castilian, the essentially the major official language of Spain, from the Kingdom of Castile, which is where Madrid is, and the official language of the country of the Kingdom of Spain, with the other official languages as Galician. The difference between Galician and Castilian is as big or as small as the Portuguese with the Castilian. So it's hard to know, but essentially Hispanic is related to the Spanish language, and Latin is relating mostly to Spanish and Portuguese speaking South American countries. So the barrier is quite flexible, and we had to include also, for example, the Philippines, that are strongly Hispanic influenced country, now former U.S. colony, and now because of that mostly English speakers, and Tagalog, which is their own language, but they have a very strong influence of Spain because it was a colony of Spain for many centuries, and of course the name Philippines comes from the King Philips, and many of the names in the Philippines are Spanish surnames, and certainly um, the the culture has a very strong Hispanic influence, so that could be included in what is called Hispanic, although no Latin. So so it's the voice of this group and this culture and this history and this story that we are celebrating. And the idea of celebration is because we are proud and happy to share this background and this history and this culture and the voice, because it is opera. So we are focusing on classical vocal arts, art songs, and opera, zarzuela, and all kind of modern production, even in the States, that is of classical vocal focus with the Hispanic or Latin um, perspective. So our mission statement um, is Opera Hispanica is the premier performing organization, empowering vocal arts Latin artists and developing our communities through cultural and musical productions and content. So we're focusing on Latin artists, and uh, again, is the definition is quite general, and but certainly we are aware that we are in the States, and the United States have a very specific vision of cultures and belongings, and I think um, again it is what each of the artists decide to be, and what it is the American perspective of those artists. So Latin, including also the Hispanic component, and essentially vocal arts, meaning they're singers, but of course there are other musicians, instrumentalists and pianists and conductors, and everything related to our vocal productions, but center around the classical vocal repertoire. And we're trying to develop our communities through these cultural and musical productions. And we're talking about productions as anything that we do, but certainly opera productions, which will be our core um, um, offering, doing opera productions that are stage, and they are opera of very encompassing approach. Um, and we following our mission statement and getting more specific, Opera Hispanica supports inclusion and diversity by bringing a voice or giving a voice to the Latin artists and creators. And we're talking about singers, musicians, designers, directors, all kind of creative arts around operatic and classical vocal music. We're a platform to produce and develop cultural content represented our heritage, passions, and belief, and so again, our mission is to create cultural content, meaning productions of operatic works, but also commissioning operas in Spanish or with a Hispanic perspective, and recitals based on the Hispanic perspective or the Spanish language or the Latin American influence. So it's a bit it's a more encompassing than just Spanish repertoire. And certainly because we are aware and we are proud to be in the States, so the States give us the perspective to where approach our community and our repertoire. Opera Hispanic is the only opera in company in the United States exclusively to celebrate and promote opera and vocal works created around the Latin American and Spanish experience. And I think this concept of Latin American and Spanish experience is very important because it includes creators, artists, and composers and musicians that are they consider themselves from the Hispanic or South American heritage, but that could be a very general definition, and certainly could be people that were born in the States and grew up speaking English as a first language, and with because for whatever reason their name doesn't represent a typical Latin American and Spanish family name, which there's no such thing, but we can think that it's not Spanish name, but yet they consider themselves a descendant of that heritage. So that is certainly the Spanish experience. And our goal is to facilitate the development, creation, and performance of socially relevant content from the operatic and lyric repertoire to allow opera companies and performing arts organizations to present diverse programming and to reach traditionally underrepresented audiences. And the idea of Opera Hispanica is to create content, meaning productions, opera productions, recital repertoire, symphonic programs related to the lyric repertoire, the operatic and lyric repertoire, and to have those content, those productions, those recitals, those programming available to other institutions, so they will feel that a lot of the work in preparation and curating this repertoire is being done sensibly and sensitively by our company, and they would allow them to comfortably present it to their audiences. It is known by all the companies and all the performing arts and everyone actually that the Hispanic and the Spanish speaker or a Spanish descendant or Latin American, there's so many options of defining this group. It is our one of the strongest groups in the States, and we are all eager to represent that group on stage the same way that off stage, right? So we want the Latino community or the Latin community or the Hispanic community on stage the same way we want them in the audience. And so all the companies are very eager to reach these audiences, and the best way to do it is by presenting or representing this experience on stage, and of course to create a diverse and more varied repertoire, of course including Spanish or Hispanic or Latin repertoire in their seasons. It's just a great element of variety, and of course the quality of this repertoire is just first class, so we want to feature that element. As I mentioned, Opera Hispanica has embarked in the production of several dynamic and groundbreaking productions of Hispanic operas to be presented through the States and the Americas. And we have a very good impact in the press. We did a festival and some production, so we have some good feedback from the Times, the New Yorker, and Associated Press. So it's I think the community at large, it's really interested in our work and our proposition. This is just an example of the things that we are looking still recitals at the His America Society. We did this online event. This is coming up soon. This is our production on Maria de Buenos Aires and Frida, an opera by the Texan composer, but Mexican American Rodriguez, based on the life of Frida Kahlo. Is actually it was going to be the most performed opera by a living composer last season before pandemic. So it was very interesting. There were more productions of that, Frida and the other one being as one. Those two operas were going to be the most performed operas in the States before everything shut down. So again, the interest of the companies on this repertoire is evident. Here we are again. So I would like to talk now about the repertoire. I think it's that we find it fun. Now, actually, before that, any questions? I would like people to actually just talk out loud if you want to. Just unmute yourself. I think you are able to unmute yourself, and feel happy. If you have any questions about everything that I have said, which was a lot, just let me know. I adore questions. I'm telling you, there's no wrong questions, because you make me think of things that I haven't thought to say. So your perspective is unique and interesting and valuable. So things for me that are obvious, because I've been living with this for months and years. It's not necessarily obvious to you, and you may want to have your input or your questioning. So feel free to ask anything. I think that this creates a great dynamic, and I'm very, very welcoming to questions. So if you have questions, just unmute yourself. I will hear it. If not, I will continue. Any question?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
Was there a particular moment in your life that you knew that you were supposed to do the work that you're doing now?
Good. So, yes. So this awareness of the Hispanic repertoire as a social thing, not so much as a repertoire thing. It's innate to the American experience. When I'm in Argentina, I don't think about Spanish as a group thing. It is it, right? So we don't go to Italy to eat in an Italian restaurant. You eat in a restaurant. That's Italian. So the same thing. Although, as a classical musician, we know that of course, our main repertoire is Germanic. If you're doing instrumental music, followed by French. And if you're doing vocal music, operatic, the Italian is paramount, and then you do German and French. So we do have, growing up as a pianist, I do have, we had to do works by Argentinian composers, and of course the Spanish composer from Spain, or the great South American composer, whereas were included in the list, but they were just as a matter of like all the national the nationalism that happened at the end of 19th century. It started to influence the repertoire. So we have the Russian repertoire, and we have the Slavic repertoire, and we have the Eastern European repertoire, and so we have all those cultures that were added to the core, the typical German, French, Italian repertoire. Now, when I came to the States and I came to University of Michigan to do my master's in accompanying and chamber music, I, I then I moved to New York, and I've been working in opera since then. I'm a faculty at the Juilliard School and the Manhattan School of Music, and of course doing our usual repertoire, which is mostly Italian, French, German, and English. Excuse me. Obviously, in the States, there's a lot of American composer repertoire and also English, because it is related to the audience. The American and the English repertoire in other countries happens, but not as regularly as in the States or in England. And oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me be. Maybe it's better. And so, but there's the awareness of the belonging to the Latin or Hispanic community was something very, very associated with the American experience. The American culture is very aware of groups, and I think because it is very, very mixed, which is very interesting and fascinating and wonderful. Not many countries have the lucky to have such a strong presence of so many groups. Certainly, if you think about European countries, there are huge majority of something and then something else. Even in South America, you have a very strong presence of one group, and then everything else is a major minority. Argentina, it has a very interesting exception that is actually more than 50% Italian, which is very unusual for South America. Yet our Italian influence is absolutely mixed with the Spanish, and there's no such a thing anymore. Used to be when they were just fresh out of their immigration. There's no an Italian group and a Spanish group in Argentina, but the influence of Italy is constant, as you can see by my name. My name is a perfect Argentinian example. First name Spanish, last name Italian. And this awareness of Italy as a culture is present, but it doesn't separate you from the Spanish last names. It just doesn't work like that in the States, in Argentina. But in the States, the belonging to different groups is very strong, and you have the different groups by so many reasons, and either racial or cultural or background. And so when I in the longer I was here in the States, I was aware of my heritage and my Spanish element and my South American component, and I was very proud because it is fun and it's great and it's colorful and it's just good music and good culture. So we are very very happy to have it and to I would say flaunt it. So but only when I was asked to be the music director or the artistic director of Opera Hispanica is that when actually I start focusing on championing actively the repertoire. And now as a artistic director and general director of the company, I made it my mission to promote it as much as I can. And it is interesting. It's not it's just a goal of offering to more people, or to have this idea that we can help other companies show the repertoire. And also we are proud to to be performing this repertoire. And so it's a matter of focusing on something. And of course my career continues in all kind of standard repertoire and doing all other repertoire at the same time. But I find it very exciting and fascinating to be also doing this artistic slash cultural slash social proposition that is Opera Hispanica. So thank you. Great question.
Thank you.
And Kineret, you unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I was wondering, since there aren't many people who are both, the artistic director of one company while being the musical director of another, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit as to the differences between like what each role involves.
All right. So being so let me tell you everything. Just all my titles, right? So there are a lot. So I'm a vocal coach at the Juilliard Pre-College Division. I'm the music director of the undergraduate opera at Manhattan School of Music. I'm the music director of opera in Williamsburg. I'm the general director and artistic director of Opera Hispanica. I'm the artistic director of a summer workshop, actually a school way. It is in Japan, called the Tokyo International Vocal Arts Academy. And I'm the music director of a festival in Mexico. It's the International Summer Opera Festival of Morelia. So, and when you are a music director, you are dealing with the mostly, or is your, let's say it's your final choice. You are dealing with the sound production of that company, and it all the institutions that I'm music director of or are essentially musical. So they are centered around music. So the quality of the music, it's under my responsibility. So I'm involved in the casting, in the preparation, in the quality control of the musical aspect of those companies, right? Now, as a general and artistic director, but artistic director is more encompassing, because it's not just the music, but also the visual element and the creative element and the artistic phase of that company, which will be more encompassing, because we are dealing with visual elements, we're dealing with PR, we're dealing with public relationships, we're going to with the language of it, the policy, the artistic policy. So it is much more encompassing when we're talking about the artistic element. I'm involved in all the hiring. I'm involved in all the casting also, but not just from the musical point of view, but just from all the artistic element. And now, as a general director, I am mostly involved with planning and fundraising, especially in the States, in which most of our associations are donor-based. And also, Opera Hispanica is a non-profit organization, so its economical support can mostly from grants and donations, and right now only donations, because we are very, very new. So the main goal of the general director is actually planning and developing of a company. And being our general and artistic director, I wear both hats of fundraising and social development and economical and business related issues of matters of the company, at the same time with the artistic element, which is the creative, musical, and production. Okay. Good. Any other questions? All right. So now I'm going to focus now into the repertoire because I thought it is fun. And this is just a bit of an introduction to what we are championing. This is not a lecture on Hispanic or Spanish music. It's just what kind of things we do, we want to show, and just to start the conversation in terms or make you aware of what we could include, right? So I'm going to show you first. By the way, I did with the first event that I organized was an online event in December. It was called the Majas of Opera Hispanica. Majas is a very Spanish name that is very hard to translate, but essentially it's like lad or lass, I would say. And it was inviting, was centered around very prominent female singers, opera singers that have done many wonderful things in their career, and they are an example of what they do in its own world. And one of those singers, one was Camille Zamora, and she's a Juilliard graduate, but also she is the founder of Sing for Hope. Sing for Hope is a wonderful organization, not international, amazing, huge company that does musical events for certain institutions like hospitals and retirement homes and places where the music will have an impact farther than just the musical enjoyment. And they created an amazing, incredible world reaching project called the Pianos, the Sing for Hope pianos, which is this pianos painted by artists that are really, really colorful, and they are just placed in the middle of the streets, in the middle of the sidewalks everywhere. They're probably one of these colorful, crazy-looking pianos near you somewhere. I know there's one in Atlanta. I just ran into one of those in the Martin Luther King Memorial. There was an event all over Lincoln Center, but these pianos live many places. And anyway, so Camille is a great soprano that is doing a lot of repertoire, Spanish repertoire with orchestra. Another of our guests was Catalina Cuervo, which is the singer that had performed more Maria de Buenos Aires and more Frida than anyone else in the world. Then we have the wonderful Chilean soprano Verónica Villarroel, big star in the world of opera, now currently living in Chile and teaching. She's retired from the main stage, but she was top star of the opera world. And then I had Nancy Fabiola Herrera, a Spanish mezzo that sings leading roles at everywhere in the world, the Met and Zarzuela and Covent Garden and Paris Opera, and also Isabel Leonard, which is currently one of the top 5 stars at the Met, and she's certainly your mezzo, your light mezzo to go when it comes to operatic repertoire. So and she's a good friend of mine, and she's from her mother is Argentinian. So so we have these guests, and we did a wonderful event, and some of them performed for us. So we're going to share a little videos from that, and we're going to discuss specifically after we listen to it. the first guest is going to be hold on, let me before that. The first guest is going to be Nancy Herrera, and she's from actually born in Mexico, but actually she's Canarian from the Canary Islands, so Spanish, and of Spanish. Actually, she was born in Venezuela, but she's a Spanish citizen, and she is a wonderful mezzo. She just did the lead role at the Teatro de Zarzuela production of one of the zarzuelas, and she produced this video for us from Uruguay.
La luna vino la fragua con su polifón de nardos e il niño la mirò, e il niño la sta mirando ed el aire conmovido mueve la luna sus brazos y enseña lúbrica y pura sus senos de puro estaño. Oye, luna, 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 si te vieran los gitanos, harían con tu corazón collares y anillos blancos. Niño, déjame de baile cuando vengan los gitanos. Te encontrarán sobre el yunque con los ojitos cerrados.
So that was Nancy Fabiola Herrera singing a song. But actually, the composer is a conductor and a live composer. These songs are being written last decade. They are fairly new. But the text is by the great Federico Garcia Lorca, which is wonderful, wonderful poet. It's the most influential playwright and poet of early 20th century in Spain, and created of his own language, but also creating a voice to really the Spanish people, and certainly the southern Spain, which is, it always felt like this essentially Spanish. It's a story about the moon and the child that is, as you can see, eventually dies, and the gypsies that at first we thought they were the enemies, but actually it's the family of the child and the little boy that is dead at the end. And it's wonderful to see how Nancy creates those two characters, and you see how I just love the personality of the moon in this kind of frivolous approach at first, but then very heartbroken before she has to take the baby away, the boy away. The interesting piece with this piece, first of all, is that we're lucky that Nancy did it for us. She's an amazing singer, performer. But in terms of the repertoire, is that it has a typical Spanish flavor with the Middle Eastern influences that is so strong in southern Spain still, in the architecture, in the food, and the language. Remember, we do have a lot of Arab origin words in current Spanish, and but also the music is essentially Middle Eastern, and you can hear that element in the music, and it's a great combination of a living composer with a major Spanish poet. So there's essentially, this is something that we aim to feature, this living composer, in this case Spanish and in Spain, with the whole heritage of the Iberian Peninsula, and of course we'll have a bit of a lot of the American. So this is one of our main repertoire. So living composer, Spanish language, Spanish heritage, Hispanic heritage, and certainly in supporting singers and artists like this. We're talking about we had the lucky to have a Uruguayan pianist and a singer that is essentially Spanish, but actually Venezuelan born artist, right? The next selection we're going to hear is from Frida. We talk about Frida and being this opera that is performed a lot in the States. There's many reasons why Frida is so popular. Again, because as I was saying, the companies wants to produce repertoire in Spanish or from the Hispanic perspective. Frida is a sure sell. If you advertise that you're going to do anything related to Frida Kahlo, the audience come in flocks. This production has been sold out every time it's done. I had the lucky to conduct it last year before the pandemic in October in the great company of Atlanta. Atlanta Opera Company is one of the larger companies in the States, and we did this production with Catalina Cuervo, which she's going to sing an aria from it. And it was 4 performances in a 900-seat theater, and they were all sold out. So it was really, really successful. Have a question? Yay, question. how do you deal with dialects and regionalism in an opera text difficult to be understood or ambiguous in other places? Okay, good. So before we go to talk about Frida, I will take this question. There's you. I would say you should do your best, right? So, and we're going to take the question is how do you deal with regionalism and dialects in Spanish language? So, each country has its own accent, and most of South America behaves as South American Spanish behaves one way, and then you have the Castilian Spanish from Spain that behaves in another way, and it's very clear to know which one you have to approach. If the repertoire is written by a Spanish composer from mid 19th century or early 20th century from Madrid, you will do it with the Castilian accent. If it's someone related to Andalusia or Andalusia, you will do it with the Southern Spanish accent. If the composer is South American, you will do it with the South American accent. And if it's Mexican, you try to do Mexican. If it's Argentinian, you try to do Argentina. Let me tell you about Maria de Buenos Aires. Maria de Buenos Aires is a really successful opera by the great tango composer Astor Piazzolla. It's a very unusual piece because the story is it has an evolution, but it doesn't have a time. The timing is very unusual. It's very surrealistic, and so the story. Let's put it this way: the main character dies in the middle of the opera, and then the second half is a ghost of herself, of sort, maybe, you don't know, because at the end she gives birth to herself. So, or maybe we don't know. It's the whole thing is very surrealistic. So it has to do how the director or the performance want to take the piece, which is great because the poetry is just first class, but it's really hard to understand even for Spanish speakers, and certainly almost impossible to understand in a performance when these amazing images come to you and you have no idea what hits you. So just imagine James Joyce on drugs. So really, really complicated stuff. And of course, if you do that piece, you will aim for a very strong Argentinian accent because it's an Argentinian composer and an Uruguayan poet that we have the same accent. So you will do that in the Argentinian accent, which is kind of very typical of our region. But I've heard it done by other singers, and we're welcome other singers that try to do this Argentinian accent, and it's okay to do it. And if sometimes their own language comes in, but that's just you do your best. It will not hurt the piece at all if some little accent comes. I mean, just imagine doing an opera by Britain, by Americans. You will try to do the British accent, but if sometimes the British accent doesn't come through perfectly, that's okay. You get the idea, right? So, and you get the flavor, and it's very important that you aim for that. I think the language is essential to our music, obviously, and the colors of each of the accents. They're not really dialects because they are not different languages, they're accents. So the different accents are very colorful and variable. Of course, if we can also do different languages altogether, and if I do Catalan music in Catalan, it was just a different language altogether, but it's part of the Hispanic experience. All right, or if I even do a song in Native American languages, that will be part of our heritage because it is South America. So thank you for the question. And going, since we are talking about American influence. This piece by about Frida, which is really wonderful, successful. It was composed actually in 1990 and premiered in 1991. So it's really new. It only has 20 years, but it tells the whole story of Frida, which is it's very theatrical. If you read the libretto and you see the opera, you will think that this cannot happen to one person, and it did, and it's quite incredible life story. All the things that happened to her, they're so dramatic and so strong, and she was so strong, and such a great example of female rights and the struggle of the female artists to be equal with the male artist, which was, and it's very evident with his partner, her partner, which was Diego Rivera, a major Mexican painter. So, but this piece is actually written by a Mexican descendant, Texan-born Javier Rodriguez, Robert Javier or Xavier Rodriguez. He is Hispanic, he's Mexican descent, but essentially is American. And the piece is written in English, original, and with a lot of Spanish words, but essentially in English. It was for example, it was a debate to do this piece with a Spanish accent or not. Do we do the English with a Spanish accent? Why? Because she is actually talking in Spanish, except that it's translated to English, right? So the character, let's say we have a movie about a Roman emperor and the Roman empress, and so we hear them talking in English. Should they have an Italian accent? Should they have a British accent, as we heard with not Sophia Loren, but anyway, by an actor playing a Roman emperor, they often do have the British accent for whatever reason, right? Should they have Italian accent, or should it just be typical American accent? So it's just quite a definition. So if this had been my choice, I would have asked the singers to sing in the perfect American accent when they are Mexican characters, because I expected that the characters will have no accents, right? They will have their own accent, which is Mexican, speaking in Mexican, show no accent. So if I do it in English, they should have an accent. But actually, the composer, which is not Mexican, actually he is American, Mexican descent, but American, and essentially a very good example of a Hispanic composer, prefers the Mexican accents, or Spanish, or some kind of accent, but essentially an accented English. He doesn't like perfect English. He likes the foreign, the non-American character to have a Hispanic or Spanish accent. The piece has a lot of American characters, and those were played in the standard American accent, although some of them have even specific artists. The actor Robinson had a very, very New Yorker accent, and the characters of Rockefeller and Ford have a very normal American accent. I don't know if they did, but they played, and the composer prefers them in a normal American accent. So this is a very, very Hispanic opera, I would say, because it was created in the States with the mentality of the Hispanic culture in the States, written in English, based on a Mexican character. So here is Catalina Cuervo from Colombia, and myself playing the final aria of Frida by Robert Xavier Rodriguez. There we go. Now you. good. So you see, this opera is in English, of Hispanic Mexican character, by a Hispanic composer with a very strong Spanish accent in the English, but essentially English, and talking about a female creator, and her struggle about um, showing herself. So it is a very interesting, and it's also very moving, as you can see. And this is the end. Again, yes, her second wedding night with the same person. With she got married twice to Diego Rivera, and that's part of her. Just one little example of her struggles and all her very colorful life. So this is a very typical, again, another core of our repertoire, because it shows the Hispanic and the Latin community really alive and dynamic in the States. And I think it's just a beautiful example of it. And so, any questions about all this? And Catalina looks like Frida in Frida's, of course, her best looking Frida. I mean, it's just her ideal Frida. I mean, Catalina is way prettier than Frida, but she does always, in all her pictures, she really creates a character beautifully. So
I see a question in the chat from Robin. Does the Portuguese genre fado, and I'm probably butchering a lot of these pronunciations, have a place in opera hispanica?
Well, I do have. I thank you. I love fado, and there's something about fado that is it has two elements. One, first of all, is Portuguese and very specific of Portugal, and second, it's actually a popular kind of music. So while the fado element is and the Portuguese element is part of our core, the element of doing pop music is not necessarily our core. So we do not do popular music. We don't do necessary tango, for example. We do Piazzolla opera, and we could complement some tango that are operatic, or maybe do operatic, but we don't do salsa or merengue unless it is part of something that is essentially operatic or classical music. It doesn't mean that we don't do ever popular music, because, like, for example, in a recital we could easily include boleros and fados and things like that. So so there's the two elements. We are focusing on classical vocal arts and not necessarily popular vocal arts, but Portuguese itself, it is part of our goal, or could be part of our goal. We don't have anything planned involving Portuguese, but we do have our eyes into several Brazilian composers of contemporary opera that are very successful. So there are several elements, and in any case, I wouldn't say, even now, I wouldn't say yes or no to anything. It is a matter of a choice, a specific choice in terms of a repertoire. And yes, it could be that we do fado, and I do have two very good friends that are from Portugal that do fado, and they're fantastic. And we could somehow eventually involve them because they are classical singers, right? Because one of them trained as a young artist at Paris Opera House, and the other one runs an opera company in Portugal. So because of that classical element, they will combine into our repertoire. All right. Any other question? Let me see. That was great. I love it. Yes. Ernest, I don't know if you're unmuting yourself or by accident or you want to say something. No. Good.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you want to do when this craziness is over?
Well, we are doing it already. Yay. So we are planning our next season. So and we are going to be doing a double bill with two stage works. One is by Piazzolla, another one by De Falla, Manuel De Falla, together. It's a very psychologically heavy show with a live feed video, meaning the director will move around the characters and they will create this very psychologically heavy show because they are very, very psychological heavy shows as a given. And one of the singers that we are hoping to have and we're talking is with Nancy, that you heard doing that wonderful song by De Falla, by Garcia Lorca. And we're doing a major recital at the America Society with a wonderful opera star. It's all happening in November. By the way, this year is the centennial of Piazzolla's birth, so we are featuring his work also. So we are limited mostly by our budget more than the COVID situation right now because we're very young. So we are doing what we want to do, which is very great already. So that's very exciting. One thing that was that
you are saying we are doing that, we being Opera Hispanica, because we are also in Opera in Williamsburg, and we also have plans for when this craziness is over or whenever we can perform. So I just want to make it clear to everybody. When what you were describing is Opera Hispanica's plans.
Correct.
Now, as the general and artistic director of Opera in Williamsburg, I would say we would love to collaborate with you all. Not as our main two productions, but we would love to add to that some of the things that you all are doing.
And we are planning, everyone. We do plan to bring some of these Opera Hispanica production or events to Williamsburg, the recitals also, and so it is something that we certainly want to bring everywhere, and this is exactly one of the goals of Opera Hispanica, to facilitate companies like Opera in Williamsburg to bring Hispanic Center repertoire, so we can vary our repertoire, so we don't do only the classics, but also we do different repertoire, and also because we reach different audiences and we feature different elements of our culture on stage. So that's exactly why Opera Hispanica is doing its work. One of the events that is coming up, and I would like to invite you all to check it out from our website. We're thinking in May, March, we are planning in a video event. We're going to feature almost 40 minutes of traditional Spanish songs from 1500 to 1900s. Arranged and recollected by a composer called Graciano Tarragó and arranged for voice and guitar, and by Camille Zamora from Sing for Hope. And she produced this beautiful video also with images by Adriano Lavitola, and I'm going to share with you a little trailer so you fall in love with it, and then you make sure you watch the full length video, and if you can find that information in our website, not yet but soon, and you can always write to Naama to our Opera in Williamsburg contact and find more information. She will let you know how to access. But let me share with you. Let me show that it's available. Yeah. Let me share with you a little video of a little trailer of this. All right, so that was a little trailer of this video. I think it's gorgeous, and every song is very different. This is just a video that put together with little pieces of kind of the aesthetic and the images that you will hear, and it's all these wonderful songs from mid 1500s to 1900. They're all very, very, very different, and they sound great and they look so beautiful. So it's going to be in mid-March, and I hope you can join us and watch the full-length video of it. Okay, and we're going to also do little talks around it, so we talk about the songs and everything. And just to finish up, I'm going to do one more video just to say bye. This is a typical Spanish song from by Joaquin Turina, a classical early 19th century, early 20th century composer of the height of the art songwriting for tenor and voice. And here you have Las Locas por Amor by Joaquin Turina. All right, good. So I will invite you guys to support our companies, both Opera in Williamsburg and Opera Hispanica, and visit our websites and just check out what we're doing. We're very happy to see so many faces here, and thank you, Williamsburg Regional Library, for having us as a host. We always enjoy meeting the community and share all our passions, our beautiful music. So I see there's some message pro just said thank you. Right? Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you everyone. And Naama, you want to wrap up?
Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us. We do have we at Opera in Williamsburg do try to plan for May. Right now, things are up in the air. Of course, this year, okay, at any time, and particularly at this unusual time, any plans are open to change. But we do hope very much to come to Williamsburg in May and present a program in person, as well as continue creating our online programs. We have another library event for a month from now. I believe it's on March 21st. And we plan to continue bringing a program every month. Please, you can see the really beautiful opera that we created together of, you were talking about German repertoire, a German composer composing in Italian with Italian libretto, Orfeo ed Euridice by Gluck, that we created in Opera in Williamsburg and is available in preview and will soon be released in the final version. And to see it, you can go to our website, operainwilliamsburg.org. To see Opera Hispanica, go to operahispanica.org.
No,
and we always
.com.
share.
Operahispanica.com. C-O-M.
Okay. Operahispanica.com. And we also try to notify people about events by email and on Facebook. To be continued, music will out one way or another, and we hope very much to do it in person as soon as we possibly can. Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you.
For everything you are doing with us and for what you are doing with Opera Hispanica.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that concludes the meeting. Thank you so much for your time. That was so informative and awesome, and a lot of things I didn't know.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for joining us.